they don't want to know what the management is expecting, use that to your advantage. Let them play with that for a while, and when you know your data is good, when you know it's consistent with what management is used to see, then you can start going to the more mainstream form of BI, the one that everyone wants to do, which is really the KPIs, the dashboards. We're using SharePoint again, leveraging the stack, using SharePoint Server. Performance Point is built into it now, and we are just about to roll out the first Performance Point dashboard based on the SQL Server data. Then on the customer service, on customer facing side, same story, right? Why reinvent the wheel? We're using the exact same layout. We have the same data coming out of SQL Server. We federate the Active Directory, right? So our customer service people can go onto our customer infrastructure. It's all hosted. By the way, it's a Microsoft product, right? It's hosted behind ISA. On Windows. We have SharePoint as our presentation layer. SQL Server gets a copy of the data. So we leverage all the same reporting, all the same technology that we use internally and present the customer with their sales reports and delivery reports that they expect. And that's the first step. That's where we are now. The next step is to allow transactions to come in. We're not a consumer product company, but we still do some B2B business. And so we need to be able to take orders. We need to be able to invoice and get invoiced. So we will use Bespoke again, leveraging the stack. Those same transactions will come in, will flow through the same interfaces back to our ERP. So that's what we roll out soon. And longer term, we can work with our customers to leverage that same stack with no further investment by simply creating web services and allowing our customers to have integration applications on their end. It will allow them to more tightly integrate their systems with our supply chain. What are the benefits of this approach? We've been in business for over 4 years, just over 4 years. We, like I mentioned, we're about $800 million. And the benefits have been very tangible. There was a study done by Penaya, and they claimed that the typical support cost of an SAP implementation of North America, and we're talking just support, not acquisition of the product, was around $5,500 a year per user. At Capstone, looking at all our line of business applications, including things that you wouldn't be able to do in SAP, we are at about half of that. We have just under $2,400 per year per user. So certainly a major advantage from a cost perspective. And then the flexibility that I mentioned, the fact that we're able to upgrade an application rapidly without upsetting the other apps because all the interfacing is centralized with Bespoke. For example, we were able to upgrade our AX ERP in under 6 months in 2009 when we went from version 4 to version 2009. And any system can be replaced or upgraded without affecting others, which is very important if you're going to acquire new businesses. And the agility part, right? The ability, like I said, to integrate new applications from acquisitions. The ability to add new systems. We were able to add Avantis, which is our maintenance system, a very major system, $1 million system, right? Hundreds of users. We're able to add that new application under 6 months at the same time that we upgraded the ERP. So that's how we built Capstone. And looking forward, how do we leverage the stack to grow the company again? And what I want to do is go through some of the learnings from our history and how it can apply to Capstone or other companies, do's and don'ts when it comes to IT and acquisitions. The acquisition market's heating up. I mean, back in 2008, bankers told us there wouldn't be any credit for the next 20 years. Well, then they come back and say, oh, did we say years? We really meant 20 weeks because they realized they only make money if they lend money. So all of a sudden, credit was available again. Not as much as before, but it was. And the recession certainly put a lot of companies on the block to be sold. So the M&A market's heating up. The Wall Street Journal reported at the beginning of the year that there was a 25% growth in acquisition volume last year, and they're forecasting 15% at least in 2011. What's even more interesting is the fact that it's not just finance and biotech like it was before the recession. It's everywhere. It's industrial and chemicals, technology, media, business services, consumer products. So every single market is going through this growth phase right now and going through this consolidation phase through acquisitions and mergers. So if you're not being acquired, or if you're not about to acquire somebody, assume that you will be at some point. Hopefully you'll be on the acquiring side. And if you are, here's a few things that you may want to think about now. You can look at a variety of publications will tell you some other versions of these, but these are my own that I've learned the hard way at Capstone. And I'm going to go through each of these and see how technology can help with these challenges. The first challenge, which is really not a technology challenge in itself, it's more human, but it's the fact that very often IT is not in the loop. Right? The CEO taps on your shoulder and say, hey, I just bought a company, make it work. And that's a big problem. Very often it's way too late. And so you really have to work, as a CIO, you have to work, I had to go through that, go to your board of director, tell them, look, we need to be there day one. And here's a way to sell it. Right? Tell them, ask them if they want to know if that acquisition is going to cost them $1 million or $10 million. Do they want to know that after the fact or before they negotiate the price? And that'll make them think. I went through that, and I can tell you these guys are like, we want the first one. Right? Know ahead of time. So, but be ready. So you can sell them, sell your CEO, sell your board, then you have to be ready. You have to be ready to deliver as soon as an acquisition is in the work. You have to have migration cost model, because they're going to ask you, hey, you're at the table now. How much is it going to cost me? You have to know what your costs are. You have to know what your variable costs are, your incremental costs when you add users, right? You have to have your system documentation. That is always something we're struggling to keep up to date, right? Well, now you have no excuse. You have to have your system documentation in top shape, especially when it comes to interfacing, so that you know how you're going to interface ahead of time when you inherit 200 new apps. Get your methodologies ready. They will follow methodology. Right? The company will follow methodology for the acquisition. Make sure it's yours, not someone else's. So think about it now. Even if you don't have an acquisition in the work, ask yourself, what will I do? What do I need to know if tomorrow I'm either being acquired or merged with someone or I'm going to buy a business? Look at application portfolio management and technology portfolio management in general. Not all companies do that. Big companies tend to go into it right now. There is no size limit. Even if you have 5 apps, start thinking about really looking at your apps as a portfolio in terms of the business value versus the maturity of the technology. That will help you greatly when an acquisition comes along. And have standards. It's much easier to ask your board to give you money to upgrade a company that you're buying if you already have standards and all you're saying is, hey, we're going to bring them to our standards. It's much easier to do that up front than later after the fact and say, oh, by the way, we bought this company, they have junk and I need money. Very difficult to do. Speaking of which, lesson number 2, acquisitions are often behind on the IT investment. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, pretty much either a company is a standalone company and they're being acquired for a reason. It's usually they're running out of money. Or they have difficulty growing, so they need someone with deeper pockets, and usually they've started cutting costs, especially in IT. Or they are a division of a company that is being divested, and again, they prep the bride, as we say. They didn't spend enough money on IT to make their results look good. Either way, you're going to inherit a mess. You're going to have obsolete computers, you're going to have systems out of maintenance, you're going to have poorly documented systems. So be ready. Tell your board, tell your CEO ahead of time, you're going to spend a certain amount of money on day one. Be ready to upgrade your servers, be ready to roll out new desktops, whether really new desktops or at least virtualize a new image. And then think about getting out, especially if it's an asset sale, you have a unique opportunity to get out of some of these support contracts, right? Especially telecom contracts. Very often it's very hard to breach those contracts, but you have an acquisition, it's probably the only clause that allows you to get out of the contract. And so that's an opportunity to get out of a service you don't need, but you have to be ready then to replace it on day one. So be ready, again, to upgrade. Some technologies you can leverage there, well, virtualization. If you want to migrate applications quickly, You don't have time to install new hardware. You've got to be ready to virtualize. Terminal service, desktop virtualization. Either way, that's a way to push a new desktop on older machines. You want to make use of that. You're going to be, as a CIO, under a lot of pressure to get off the CIO system quickly, especially if it's a divestiture. It's a divestiture, you're going to be paying handsomely for the right to use someone else's system. Someone who is actually a competitor to yours, usually. So do your homework, negotiate the right to transfer licenses right, ahead of time. You want to make sure you own those licenses, or at least have some agreement from their software vendor to give you the right to temporarily run multiple instances of the applications. The easy one, right? Email, document management system, you can migrate that within 30 days if you're lucky. Migrate any legacy app that you're paying to host, right? That you don't necessarily want to keep. Virtualization is your friend. Migrate them to your data center, right? Have enough capacity ahead of time. Migrate them to a virtual instance. Stop paying for someone else's server maintenance or mainframe. So again, leverage the virtualization. We Capstone use Hyper-V. You'll manage Megari, you may use something else. You not only are going to be under pressure to cut the TSA cost, the transitional service agreement, you're going to be under pressure from your management to deliver on BI and consolidate financials. I can tell you that they want to consolidate financials month one, like 30 days. So how do you do that? Well, first of all, you aim for 30 days. Traditionally, you're doing long-term planning for consolidation. You can't do that. Can't afford to do that anymore. So consolidate your financials day 30. How are you going to do that? You can't do that with Excel. You can, but it's going to be messy. So what you do, try to leverage Pistol, try to leverage SQL Server, try to leverage SharePoint. Build some interfaces that are robust from the get-go. With these technologies, you can roll them out pretty quickly. And you can build something that the auditors will be proud of, even within 30 days. All right. Here's a big one. You have an acquisition. Where is it going to hurt? You don't know. You don't know until it's too late. Is it going to be email? Are you going to inherit a lot of users that each have 5 gigabytes because they've been using email as their storage bin for a long time? Or is it going to be a lot of transactions? Maybe you're buying a business that is more consumer-oriented. They may not be as big as you, but they may have 10 times as many small transactions. So what's going to happen to your middleware? What's going to happen to SQL Server? Perhaps they have a lot of locations. And all of a sudden, you have the issue of having a very diverse network. You have bandwidth issue. You're trying to go through, maximize the use of terminal server, and you're overtaxing your infrastructure. So it's very difficult to know where it's going to hurt first. So how do you do that? Well, cluster. Right? Cluster, cluster, cluster. Build clusters that you can grow from the get-go. You can have a one-node cluster. That's something that I've learned in that business. So these are the ones we cluster. There are other products that are cluster-enabled, but Exchange, Pistol, SQL Server, Terminal Server, even our Hyper-V consoles are clustered. What happens now is, if I have growth pain, if all of a sudden one of my systems is being overwhelmed, I don't have to plan a whole upgrade. I can just add a node to the cluster and take care of that problem right there. But you have to be ready ahead of time. So try to put everything in a cluster ahead of time, and then what you cannot cluster, virtualize, so at least you can migrate that instance to a bigger platform. These ones are important too. Manage communication. Right? If you don't manage communication within your company and outside the company, and I'm talking about human communication here, if you don't manage it, someone will manage it for you. I mean, the recent events show us that the power of social networks. Bad news have always spread very quickly in human history, but now they spread in microseconds. It's unbelievable. They used to have that old expression in World War II, right? Loose lips sink ships. Well, now it can sink acquisitions, and I can tell you from experience that I have seen acquisitions being torpedoed by rumors. So it's very important to control. You cannot stop communication. It's very important to control the source. People know due diligence when they see it. You can't fool people. They will know that something is going on. And they're going to be afraid. They're going to be afraid for their job. They're going to be afraid for the future of the company. So you have to be proactive about it.